Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. I meet everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'm proud to introduce you to Mykell Messman, an attorney and child advocate who works toward helping any at-risk child by bringing them to the light at the end of the tunnel. Counselor and colleague, it's a privilege to have this conversation. As a fellow child advocate, I was so looking forward to talking to you about what really attracted you to a career in the law.
Well, Star, thank you so much for even that amazing introduction and just giving me this opportunity to sit down with you. I will tell you, it began as a child, right? Isn't that always where our dreams start? And my background is very interesting. So I came from a very rural town, very small. My mom was the local bartender for
Uh-huh.
the elite, the attorneys, the doctors, the lawyers, all of the very fancy and very wealthy in our town. So I came from a home, a single parent home, where we were known as poor white trash. I grew up in poverty, abject poverty. I was considered by many to, no one expected me to achieve anything. In sixth grade, I remember distinctly, and I still have the paper that said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I wanted to be an attorney because how else could I escape this poverty? How else could I escape where I was coming from? Little did I know that my course would really take me to a direction of actually advocating for children in the future. So I began college when I was 14 years old, not because I'm stunningly brilliant, but because I'm extremely determined. So, with that being said, it took me until I was 34 to actually earn my law degree. It took me 20 years of several different schools. I got married at a very young age, had children at a young age. I was 19 and 20. My ex husband was active duty military. So, I've lived all over the world, all over the United States. It took 4 undergrad institutions to actually earn that bachelor's degree. And then I went to Regent Christian Law School in 2006, graduated in 2009.
I've got to tell you, that seems like a story that you and I could have actually been like in parallel universes. I decided to become attorney at 8 years old when I lived with my grandmother down in North Carolina. And I made that determination with no lawyers in my family either. But I knew that I wanted to be a criminal lawyer right from the start, and I wanted to be on the prosecutorial side. My brain said, I want to be the one with all the marbles in the courtroom. And that's exactly what a prosecutor does. What would you say is your specialty as a legal practitioner? I know that you're a child advocate, but legally, what do you specialize in?
So I specialize in family law and I actually do criminal defense. So it's funny, you're absolutely correct. You do hold all the marbles. And my colleagues here in the local community, the criminal defense attorneys, we call it the groveling defense, which is please, pretty please. And I promise he will never do that again. So yes, we all have our own special patterns, but my specialty is family law. I deal with divorce, custody, visitation, and I deal very specifically with families that are in crisis, whether it's a crisis of a marriage that has fallen apart, whether it's a crisis where children are now becoming and I don't like to use the word pawn, but I'm not really sure of a better term to fit, when parents just are so focused on being angry with each other, they lose sight of their children. As I said, I do criminal defense, and as much as the prosecutors are the ministers of justice, defense attorneys are so invaluable to ensuring that the process is complete, that the United States process is just so well protected in spite of all the flaws, and in spite of all the flaws in our system and the flaws of even the defendants or the situation as it arises. But my very favorite area is I'm a guardian ad litem, which, as you may know, I'm sure you, and I know that you know this, but maybe our audience doesn't. It's an advocate for children. So I'm tasked with telling the court what I believe is in the child's best interest based upon the factors that Virginia has deemed are the most appropriate. I deal with children in custody cases, and I deal with children who are before the court because of maybe behavioral issues, criminal activity, They could be there on children who are in need of services, etc. So I participate in family law to allow me the opportunity to do the guardian ad litem work.
And you don't know this, but my husband's specialty is exactly what you do, and it is his passion to work with at-risk youth because he, like us, grew up on what others people might consider the wrong side of the tracks. And he ended up going to a top 10 law school, and he ended up becoming an administrative law judge, but he never forgets that there were young people that are in from his neighborhood that didn't get a lot of those same opportunities, and they had to go to the left or to the right, and unfortunately they went to the left. It's been his purpose in life, and it seems like yours, to help intercede when a child reaches that fork in the road. And if you can really and truly advocate for their best interest, that is God's work. And I'm just telling you how proud I am to know the kind of work that you're doing, because I've read that you said that preparation is the key to your work as a lawyer, and especially when it comes to family law. Can you take us through some of those situations where that's really proved to be especially true?
Absolutely, I can. And I'll give you some instances. In a courtroom, it's too late to start thinking about your case. When I take a case, and I agree with you, I believe we are given a gift. And too much is expected, much is given. So we have this gift of people's lives in our hand. When I take your case, whether it's a criminal defense attorney, a family law attorney, or a child advocate, you become my responsibility. And that means your life is the most important situation that I have. I've been trusted by you and by the Lord with standing before the court and advocating for you. So preparation is key. It's the thing that separates us from the situations where you see the attorneys who are ill prepared. You see where they walk into the courtroom and they haven't prepared their witnesses. They haven't spent the time. And it's so frustrating as an attorney when you watch who our legal profession have not dedicated themselves to that task, or maybe they just got a little overwhelmed and their clients are left floundering. And so one of the things as an attorney who deals in our community, we all deal with the same attorneys over and over again. So it really became a coalition of being able to say to our colleagues, listen, we have an obligation as attorneys to help these families in this crisis mode. We cannot say to them, well, we're gonna push you aside because I can't get you into a courtroom. We don't always need a judge to resolve an issue. We as attorneys should be able to guide our clients and say, let's all take a deep breath. Let's all calm down, and then let's focus on the real issues here. In situations of family abuse or situations where it's untenable, of course, you have to make immediate reactive measures, which are we have to separate these individuals. We have to exclude people from the homes if necessary because of violence within the home. But it's also been a situation where for the COVID duration, when our courts were closed, and they were, then we had to work on this sort of collaborative process.
I wanted to talk to you about that because it's something that you frequently practice. And when I first read about your practice, I really became curious about this whole concept of collaborative divorce. So explain that process and the especially unique challenges it poses.
Collaborative divorce is intended to prohibit litigation. And I'm paraphrasing that. As you know, and as everyone knows, litigation is it's emotionally costly. When clients go into a courtroom, they never leave the same. There is pain that is then brought forth before strangers that can never be brought. You can't take that back. You can't take back those words that were spoken. However, collaborative divorce, and it can be a slow process, recognizes that a divorce is going to occur. We all, and it's not right for every situation. There are absolutely some situations it's not an appropriate form for domestic violence, power positions. But those situations where even if it's a long-term marriage, we recognize that divorce is going to occur. How do we all process the situation appropriately? So at the conclusion of the divorce, you may even be able to walk out as friends. It's a process that requires a lot of upfront preparation, for lack of a term that we continue to use here today, but also the ability to say, we don't need a judge to make decisions for us. With a little bit of guidance, a lot of resources, we, as the two parties, the two litigants, can be in control of our divorce. And so it's a really great way of moving people into a different position.
You also have to come in with the same mindset. The mindset can't be, let me destroy the other side. The mindset has to be, we're unraveling one relationship so that we can continue in another way.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to go in their own direction. Oftentimes it involves ongoing relationships because there are children involved, but you don't need to walk out of there having decimated your enemy. You shouldn't even walk in with the attitude that that person is your enemy. So it really does take a collaborative effort on part of the attorneys as well as the parties, because you and I both know some lawyers walk in the door looking for a fight.
Yeah.
It sounds like you walk in the door looking for a resolution.
I believe in resolution. But I will say this too. If I cannot resolve it, I come looking for the fight. There,
Whoa, I love that. Now,
there is
I
a difference.
love to hear a strong woman walking in the door ready, because when opportunity meets preparation, there's nothing that you can't do. So, counselor, what separates you from other lawyers in the field?
That's an interesting question. And it's one that I would submit is based upon the fact that I really do believe that being an attorney is the greatest gift. I don't take this lightly. I don't take your case for the benefit of what's in it for me. I believe that at the end of our time together, at the end of our client attorney relationship, you should walk out better than you walked in. So, as an attorney, I truly get frustrated with other attorneys who do not see the value in who we are. We have been given the opportunity to impact everyone's life. We've been given this opportunity to help people move past their pain. And so I see my relationship with my client different than just the person who has paid me X number of dollars to get in there. And as you said, maybe sometimes just steamroll right over the other person. But that may be not the appropriate remedy, or that may not be the appropriate course of action. So I want to be known as the person and the attorney who will defend you and protect you as if you were my own.
It makes complete sense. You keep bringing up the relationship you have with your clients. And something tells me that's because you're very involved with your community. So, how do you give back to the community outside of the law?
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It's and I want to answer this with such the appropriate statement, because I don't think giving back to your community is just a financial resolve, which is easy to do. Attorneys, we are gifted. We are blessed, most of us, with the financial ability to just write checks. And that's wonderful. And I think that's absolutely necessary at certain places. So I also believe in putting your money where your mouth's at. And as a guardian ad litem, my husband and I have brought young people who have turned the age of majority, so that's 18 in Virginia, into our home. We have paid for college tuition. We have employed victims of human trafficking who were 16 and 17 when we discovered them, have gone through the system, have gone through victim training and advocacy, and have been given all the tools and resources to be able to change their life. We have brought these people to work at our law firm, to have the opportunity to be able to say, I won't leave you. I will not just abandon you. So in our community, we support our local EVMS, which is our medical facility. We support our local CHKD. We support our local crisis pregnancy center. But we also, before judges, and I've had judges say to both my husband and I can't believe you guys are doing this. Of course we're doing it. Because if I tell you and I stand up before you and I say, Your Honor, you have to trust this person and you have to give them this opportunity, then that means I need to be able to put you into my home. And we have done that. Recently, after my husband and I were married, as I explained to you, he was a prosecutor. He dealt with human trafficking and vice crimes. So I will tell you, until about 4 years ago, I'd never heard of human trafficking in the sense of where I now know it is today. So our mission, our plan is to shift our focus away from family law, away from criminal defense, and into an international human trafficking advocacy. I read the book, The Locust Effect by Gary Hagen, who is also the director of IJM, an NGO that is focused on human trafficking, not just in the sense of sexual slavery, but labor trafficking, land trafficking, several countries throughout the world. Ghana, and they have literally boots on the ground. They have attorneys. They have on-site organizations that are intended to really affect change within those countries. So that's our goal. And we are studying. I have spent all of my research papers on dealing with human trafficking and from the United States perspective. And I'll talk to you just like I would a friend on the street corner. I'm so disappointed in the United States. We, by all statistics, we are the biggest perpetrators of human trafficking, not only within the United States, but internationally. And I know that if you look and if you Google human trafficking convictions within the United States, you won't see that many. You won't recognize the fact that human trafficking is this huge hot button topic that's real sexy, but there's no meat behind it. There's no teeth behind it. And we can write as many resolutions. We can stand up and tout as many articles and declarations if we want. But until we decide that we are going to eradicate human trafficking within our own borders, then our voice outside and the rest of the world that is saying, well, you're the ones who are paying for this. You are the ones who are perpetrating this. Where do we go from there? So that is my goal. And it may be a lofty goal. It may be a goal that is so ambitious that it may take longer than me and longer than my time. But this is where I will begin, and this is where I will end. We will address human trafficking. We must address human trafficking, and we must recognize it for the destructive force that it is. 25 to 40 million people worldwide are in human trafficking. Not all of that is sex trafficking. So I want to distinguish those two. My focus is on sex trafficking. And I personally have had several cases where I'm the guardian ad litem for children within our community, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton Roads, who are the victims of human trafficking at less than 18 years old. These are minors.
Absolutely. And you sound so mission driven, and a worthy, purposeful mission it truly is. Mykell, tell me, what's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
The most important thing that I want people to take away from this is that there is hope. That when you, and I say this from the perspective of a female who came from nothing, you have the ability to change your course of direction. You have the ability, when life is giving you the most difficult challenges, when you are at that crossroads where you can either go left or you can go right, you have the ability to go right. And that when life is so hard that you don't think you can make it forward, when you don't have anybody behind you saying, it's okay, we can do this together, there are people out there. There are advocates. There are people who may not know your name, who may not know your exact set of circumstances. But in this world, there are people who believe in change, and you are the person who can make that change.
Absolutely. I mean, the great quote is, law without justice is a wound without a cure. And I think what you are really advocating for is justice. I'm proud to know you as a colleague and a mission-driven, purposeful colleague. It's a pleasure, Mykell. A pleasure to chat with you today.
Thank you so much.